Welcome to a special edition of our We on the Air as we report on the iMedia ShopHQ yearly results. Results that were promised to us last week, but have now been set in stone to be delivered this week as we get ready. What? Stop that. Get that paper out of my face. I'm trying to do my show here. As we get ready to read. What do you mean read? Okay, fine. Read this. Oh, come on. No way. No. This can't be true. No. There is no way this is true. iMedia Brands announced today it has moved its earnings release date to April 10th, 2023. Stop that. I don't need music. Moved its earnings release date to April 10th, 2023. The reason for the change is to provide additional time for the company to keep its management resources focused on the closing of the sale-leaseback transaction, which is currently in process. But this is what we heard last week. Now, there is no more breaking news. We're done. That's it. Show's over. Now, wait a second. They've not only moved it out a week, they've moved it out 2 weeks. This is March 30th as we record this. They were supposed to have done their announcement 2 days ago because they'd moved it out a week. If you didn't listen to last week's show, go back and listen to that one first, or this one will make no sense. So now they're saying they're going to do it on April 10th because they're, for those that are lost, they're selling some buildings. And they, now, you know what? Let's go back. Let's go back here a moment because this is important. So it was first announced, where is it here? It was first announced back in, November, December. Where is it here? So, because they were talking, this was in their quarterly reports. It would have been 3 months ago. I'm excited to say we're positioned, blah, 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 because they had announced that they were going to sell 3 buildings. Here we go. On November 8th, we executed with LOI, a real estate firm, to sell 3 of iMedia's 4 buildings for $48 million. We remain confident we will close this transaction in Q4, and our goal is to actually close in December. So this was 18 weeks ago. They said they were going to close in December. Fast forward to January. Subject to satisfactory completion of customary buyer diligence, the transaction is expected to close and fund in January 2023. So they expected this money to be in the bank by January 2023. So they were hoping, and they told the investment world that they were going to have this money in the bank by, the important thing is before their year was up. So that would have hit before their yearly numbers. So then they were supposed to report their numbers on March 22nd. So then they moved that to March 28th. So now they've moved it to April 10th. They have to give these numbers. They have to deliver. Year-end numbers are done. They were finalized weeks ago. Weeks ago, the accountants had the year-end numbers done. So all the CEO has to do, and he sits down with his financial team, and they sit and they get on the phone and talk to the investment world and say, here's our numbers. And they release a press release. So this could have been done weeks ago. Why the delay? Well, this is a lot of the reason for the speculation is that they're waiting for this to close because they want to make the big announcement that this transaction has gone through. Again, ideally, they would have had it in their year-end numbers, but they don't. So on paper, that's what they're saying. Is there something more to it? I don't know. I got to say this. Because I have no show to do now, so this might be the time when we look back at ShopHQ/Evine Live /ShopHQ /ShopNBC Snap TV /ValueVision and just see how they got to where they are now. Because when you look back, it's such an interesting history. And at one point, they were better positioned to be a powerhouse in the online world than QVC and HSN were. They were doing things, and I was back at the time, I remember this, as far as interactivity and multimedia goes, that the other networks weren't even coming close to touching. So it's very interesting to see how they had such great possibility and it kind of went away. It kind of vanished. So we've got to go back in time. And incidentally, there is really not a ton of great audio and video of those early days. Just like QVC and HSN, there isn't a ton of it. I have one clip on my Facebook page that is actually the oldest, I think the oldest known video of ValueVision, and it's actually back pre-being national. Most people don't know that ValueVision, which again begat ShopNBC, which begat blah, 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 began as a local show. To understand how ShopHQ ever became, you have to understand this history here. And I've got some audio I think that might be kind of fun to listen to since I've put this show together in about 2 hours' time. But some audio that might be fun to listen to, because how ValueVision was born was not the 1992 or 1991, I guess, technically launch of it nationally to satellite homes, but it actually began on a little television station in St. Paul, Minnesota, called it was Channel 23. And wasn't KTMA. It was the same station that actually launched Mystery Science Theater 3000, if you've heard of that show. Well, some people, some very well-known names in the industry who had started the Cable Value Network, which again was the #1 network, and we got a whole show on that. I've already scheduled a guest to talk about that. When QVC did their hostile takeover and took over the channel, they thought, you know what, we want to stay in town and we want to start up another network. And so they started this thing called ValueVision. Well, to help raise money for that initial launch, they did a local show in the afternoon on Channel 23 at, I think, 4 in the afternoon or something like that, and sold whatever product they could get their hands on in 1990. Here is just a tiny commercial clip of promoting that ValueVision was going to be on Channel 23 on this particular afternoon. You're going to hear a gentleman by the name of Mike Sullivan, and the other guy, I have no idea who he is. He was one of the hosts of the little local version of it, and I've no clue his name. But here is Mike Sullivan, who had been at Cable Value Network and would be at ValueVision, with their little commercial on KTMA Channel 23 in 1990.
Thursday on ValueVision, the largest inventory of collectible dolls in the Twin Cities area. Yours at ValueVision prices.
4 o'clock, right here on TV 23.
Don't miss it.
There you go. Largest inventory of collectible dolls in the Twin Cities. And that gave them the working capital, the starting capital that they needed so that they could then eventually, in fall of 1991, go national. And here is where the kind of the whole story begins, because again they began basically just on satellite. There was no small dishes, no Dish Network, no DirecTV, so they were on satellite. And they launched. The official launch was June 1990 with their little Channel 23 thing, and went public a year later. 9 months in, they reported sales of $8 million from its growing network. $8 million for 9 months' worth of sales. By today, you'd be off the air by those standards, but back then, that was good. Who started it? Well, a bunch of former hosts from Cable Value Network. Carmela Richards, Susan Garrett, Charla Rhines, Mike Sullivan, whom I mentioned before, Wes McCoy, Eddie Nelson, were among the original of the hosts of ValueVision, and they started this small, and Frank Keenan, who will come into play here in just a moment or two, and they started this small little operation. Eventually another group of hosts came on board, including yours truly, back in January of 1992, and from that point forward, they started to bring in more of the former Cable Value Network hosts, Karen Connolly, Skip Conley, the late Bill Fahey. And so they kind of grew their veteran core while still growing their host core of, I don't want to say unknowns, but for those of us that started there, was our first gig. I'm going to play some audio of myself from 1992. Now, it's a little garbled just because it's like 3 generational lost videotape, but I want you to hear this. It's the start of a Southwest-style jewelry show with myself and someone else who has been in the news lately.
Welcome back
in ValueVision
What?
Southwest Jewelry time.
He's a little bit country.
She's a little bit we don't know.
I love this man. You're going to love what we have coming up for you, too. Ooh. That was very good, by the
So
way.
I went and hid for a half hour. No, actually, what we were doing is we're bringing...
Oh my gosh, do you recognize that voice? I'm sure many of you do. Yes, that was myself and Shannon Smith, who was just let go from Home Shopping Network after her 25 years, whatever it was there. She and I used to work together on an almost regular basis in the earliest days of ValueVision. Now, way before, again, it became ShopNBC and all of this, the building we were operating out of, a lot of these stories I don't think have ever been told before, the building we were operating out of was a small part of basically an office strip mall. Rumor was it had been a dry cleaner before. I don't know if that's true or not. But there was a front office where you had literally, I think, 2 offices. There was an upstairs where there was a small office. There was a mezzanine upstairs on the second floor where the studio was. 1 studio, 3 sets, and it overlooked the warehouse. That studio, again, on a mezzanine, was never designed to be a television studio. And I don't mind saying, in the depths of summer, heat rises, it would get to be 90 degrees plus up there. We'd be sweating like crazy. And we overlooked this warehouse. And I'll never forget one evening being on the air. I was probably with Shannon at the time. And I'm looking down into the warehouse because you could see it clearly. And there was one of our directors with a tennis racket trying to chase a bat out of the warehouse. It was, and this is why I always love the small operations, because stuff like this happened and things like this happened. And it really, back was one of the reasons I got excited to starting Liquidation Channel back in 2000, what was that? 2013, 2012, whatever it was, because they were still on that small little growing pains area. And I've always thought that was the best time at any network, is when you were going through those growing pains. Well, ValueVision started off, slowly grew, and went through a growing pains of its own, but they never really got any foundation on which they were able to build and expand and grow. Remember, this was the 30-channel universe if you had cable, so it was QVC, it was HSN, and then ValueVision was always kind of the distant third. And so they realized early on that maybe buying television stations was the way to go. Now, this was way before the channel 7.2 and 7.3 thing. It meant buying a regular television station. And so they started a little buying spree where they bought full-power TV stations. I mean, these are full power in Houston, Connecticut, Manassas, Virginia, Washington, D.C. for about $14.5 million, which, again, this is 1992-93 money. And so they realized this was the best way to get homes and to get people to watch. So they slowly started growing this way, but never really got the growth that they needed. But did fine, did well enough to stay afloat, because they never tried to become anything bigger than they were. They had grand ideas, but still kept it small. So then, January 1994, the first of what turned out to be any number of, I don't want to say bad ideas, but business deals that were well publicized and went nowhere took off when ValueVision launched a bid to acquire National Media Corporation. What was National Media? They were the #1 distributor and creator of infomercials. If you were a big infomercial in the mid-1990s, you were produced and made by National Media. So the fact that ValueVision had launched a bid to buy this company was huge. National Media had revenues of $142 million and net income of $6.3 million in 1993. ValueVision, by comparison, had revenues of $14.5 million and a net loss of $1.7 million. So again, this was not that dissimilar from QVC coming in as a distant third and buying out CVN and taking it over. This was ValueVision coming in and trying to do a similar thing. Didn't work out initially. They boosted its takeover bid after their initial bid was rejected. And then finally, they agreed in March of 1994 to a $150 million merger that promised to combine the TV and retailing strengths of both companies. This was going to be huge. This was going to be giant for ValueVision and National Media. And you might have already heard the past tense. Fast forward to April 94, ValueVision International's planned acquisition of National Media, which the company said was on track, became less of a sure bet. I'm reading from a news article. Became less of a sure bet as ValueVision postponed financing for the deal. Yeah, you said it, Orson. Exactly. So this deal was going nowhere. Well, look ahead. Look ahead, right? Things can only get better. July 1994, ValueVision said Tuesday it's teamed up with Montgomery Ward, the nation's largest privately held retailer, to test market the sale of brand name merchandise on TV. Well, Montgomery Ward, what can go wrong with that? Fantastic idea. Montgomery Ward, legendary retailer, bring them on. Analysts said Tuesday other shopping networks such as QVC have tried to sell computers over the air but have had little success. But ValueVision could succeed because it's teaming up with a well-known retailer with a well-known distribution system. Again, on paper, this just might work. ValueVision reaches more than 11 million homes on a part-time or 24-hour basis through broadcasting cable networks. Okay, not a bad idea. And honestly, computers were a very early success story for ValueVision. I held the record for top sales in 1 hour for quite a while on ValueVision from a computer show that I did on a Sunday morning. So computers were an early success story for ValueVision. In fact, this was unrelated to the Montgomery Ward deal. But by 1994, ValueVision was now in 11.9 million of the 60 million cable homes. QVC is in 47 million of those homes, and HSN was in about 34. So as you can see by the numbers, kind of still a distant third. So do I even need to talk about how the Montgomery Ward deal wound up going? Yeah. Actually, here's a surprising twist. 1996, Eden Prairie-based ValueVision International Monday agreed to buy the Montgomery Ward and Company catalog business for $23 million. See, this is why I've been wanting to, and maybe thankfully I do have time to do this show, because there have been so many turns with that company, so many twists where it could have been successful. They could have taken off. They had the right ideas, and the big one is still to come. Wait until you hear from 2002. But it never successfully took off. Think about this. Buying the catalog business from Montgomery Ward. Again, on paper, great idea. This solidifies their partnership. ValueVision would have the right to use the list of more than 10 million Montgomery Ward credit card holders, the list of 3 million Montgomery Ward direct catalog users for its own direct mailings. This should have been huge. Well, we know how that probably played out. Montgomery Ward wasn't in business that much longer. So that didn't last. Now, let's start getting into the late 1990s. And I promise I do have some more audio coming up. Oh, in fact, I have to back up a little bit, because we got to go back to 1993 for a second. One of my favorite pieces of audio. I'm going to play some audio, and then we're going to get into the high-tech era that has never, ever, ever been played publicly since it aired one time in 1993. This is the 30-second commercial that affectionately at ValueVision was called Frank Yells at the Customers. What is it? It's a commercial that ran once. It features what you will hear the voice of Frank Keenan. Frank, whom I love dearly and is responsible for my career. And I'll leave it at that. He really is 100% responsible for the career I had. Very eclectic man. Very eclectic. Drove into work in a Rolls Royce with a bejeweled license plate frame and wore a fur coat, and it's extravagant from the word go. And sadly, we lost him in 1997, and I mean, I broke down like I haven't broken down much of my life when I found out that he died. Amazing guy. Great businessman, but well, sometimes he made mistakes, and return rates were very high at one point at ValueVision, so he decided to create a commercial that would run where, as we described in the building, he yells at the customers. I'm going to play this audio again. This has never been played since it aired once. And then the CEO of the company saw it and said, that gets pulled and never run again. Until now. The setup, by the way, is simply Frank sitting at his desk.
Hi, I'm Frank Keenan. You know, for a long time we've talked about our mission in life is to deliver to you the best possible merchandise at the lowest possible price. And one of the things that I've been noticing recently that interferes with that is the cost of returns. You know, it costs you money. We can't keep the prices down. What I'd like you to do is to order carefully. And please, don't return unnecessarily. Thanks.
What a nice way to say, keep the crap you're buying. Stop sending it back. Oh, my God. Nobody in the industry, probably in the history of retail, has ever basically told the customers, knock it off with sending the stuff back. Keep it. That's what he tried to do. That's what he, in essence, did. That audio it's been shared just through videotape with employees over the years, but it's never actually been heard publicly until that moment right there. Classic. Frank yells at the customers. So the late 1990s around, it was still called ValueVision, hadn't become ShopNBC yet, but the internet was starting to take hold, and this is where ValueVision it had some great chances and some great opportunities, and it never completely dove in with them. As ValueVision, again, I'm reading from newspaper article, 1997, March 11th, 1997. So this was even before the dot-com boom. A provider of cable TV home shopping services plans to buy a 15% interest in Navarre's new net radio subsidiary for $1 million cash and a credit for $2 million worth of advertising. This was the first chance. Some of you might remember net radio. It was kind of obscure even back then, but it was the first real chance to get audio broadcast on the internet. And net radio will carry ValueVision's 24-hour shopping channel audio feed. Now imagine that, listening to home shopping. That's how it started. Started on the radio. But no one else was doing this. QVC wasn't doing it. HSN wasn't doing it. They were so big and so successful with their core business. They didn't care about these little things. And this is a little thing. But for a company like ValueVision, my gosh, why not take the chance? And again, a lot of these things I'm going to go through, had they stuck with it, and again, some of these things, they went out of business, was through no fault of their own, but had they stuck with some of these initial ideas, they could have become the dominant online retailer. And the irony is today, their app is, and I love you, ShopHQ, I have friends there, but it's the worst of the apps. All their app does is stream the show for TV purposes. It streams the show. You have all these other video options on the other apps. Anyway, so let's see. Fast forward to August 1997. This is the first big turn. Acknowledging their inability to deliver profits or shareholder value, the two top executives at ValueVision International stepped down Thursday and commenced a search for a new management team to redirect their unprofitable cable TV home shopping business. The CEO and the chief operating officer, Nick Jaksic and Bob Johander, again, who had been at CVN through its successful time, they stepped down and allowed a new team to come in. That's huge for two executives to do that. And that started the search for a new executive. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of boardroom kind of stuff, but that was the first big OMG, what is the future of this company really going to be, and who's going to steer the ship? Well, let's go back to 1998 now. Remember National Media? Listen to this. ValueVision, the Eden Prairie-based home shopping network, plans to merge with infomercial giant National Media in a deal worth about $200 million. All of a sudden, this off-the-table deal was back on the table. So now, future looking bright again. Some great opportunities. And these are the things that are missing in the industry today. The future, the opportunities, what's next. It's so just, I was going to say inbred, that's not the right term, but it's just they're so internally focused. It's no one's looking elsewhere. No one's looking for opportunities, whether it's, and I'm getting ahead of myself a lot, but whether it's internet, whether it's other companies that can help, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment here. So that was great. Now, skipping ahead again to June 1998. Well, top executives of ValueVision International made it official Tuesday that the company's proposed merger with Philadelphia infomercial maker had fizzled out. and they were determined to move ValueVision forward. So there we go. That's a done deal. However, they've hired Gene McCaffrey, a marketing and retail veteran and former Montgomery Ward executive, to help chart. What? Yes, a former Montgomery Ward executive to help chart the company's course as chief executive officer. Can I say this about Gene? Again, he got it, and he got the network through some twists and turns. Again, with internet. Again, with streaming, and he was on the forefront of some of these things. The watch shows. I will never forget in our introduction to him, he said one of the reasons he loved the company was because we were selling watches. This was before Invicta, way before Invicta. Like Breitlings, Baume & Mercier, high-end watches. And he said no one else is doing this. And it's one of the things he loved about the company. Tim Temple and I will be talking about this in an upcoming show. So he's coming in. He's the new guy now. And if you remember 1999, 2000, this is when the internet started to take off. I should pause this and save it for a continuation because we're at that point, 26 minutes in. But I'm going to keep going with this because I got nothing else. So, again, reading from a newspaper article, February 1999. Analysts have speculated that ValueVision might seek partnership with other internet companies, including search engines such as Yahoo Incorporated, to lure more customers. And they note ValueVision's ability to promote its internet site and its TV programs could attract more online users. Again, ValueVision was doing things with the internet and getting involved and talking about the internet before the other networks did in any large capacity. They were streaming their broadcast online before any other network. They were the first in so many of these areas. And Ted Turner used to have a plaque on his desk. He was the one who created CNN, and his plaque said, "Lead, follow, or get out of the way." And that was kind of his mantra, and he's right. They used to be leaders. ValueVision in this time frame was a leader. They were doing things nobody else did, and frankly, other networks tried to catch up to some of these things. They've all tried to get into watches. They didn't do it. When I was doing Bid Bash, HSN was trying to figure out how we were doing that. They weren't able to do it. So they were leaders. Late 90s, early 2000s, and then NBC kind of didn't know what to do with the network, and again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, speaking of NBC, here's the big day. March 10th, 1999, the announcement. NBC and GE Equity, both units of Giant General Electric, paid $56 million for a 20% stake in ValueVision International, the Eden Prairie-based home shopping network and direct marketing company. The deal marks the first time a top television broadcaster has invested in a home shopping network. The three hope they can link their business to carry a powerful retail selling machine. This, I remember this day like it was yesterday. Woke up to this announcement. I was calling Laura Duffick. All the hosts were calling each other as the day progressed. It's like this was the single biggest thing that could have happened. NBC was in the process of launching NBCI, which would become its internet unit and would become, they hoped, huge for NBC. Again, Gene McCaffrey, former executive with Montgomery Ward, settled the loss. They settled a lawsuit with Time Warner, expanding the cable distribution. So the cable eyes were growing. He reorganized the management. So they got the management team in place that they needed. So by 1999, the ducks were in a row. Everything was lined up for this network to take off. Got even better. ValueVision International, this is July 99, said Thursday has taken a minority stake in two small but rapidly growing internet companies. The Eden Prairie-based home shopping network and direct marketer bought an undisclosed stake in what'shotnow.com. Is that even I might have to look that up. I swear I didn't even think about it. I should check this. A Los Angeles-based company that sells popular licensed brand and trendy products, and they invested in virtualvineyard.com, a web wine merchant. They're doing these deals because they could see that the future was in online. Even if the deals fizzled and they weren't the right companies, they could see the future. No one else was bothering with online. No one. And at least they recognized it. ValueVision is also expected to change its name to Snap TV. I mentioned this in a past show. ValueVision CEO Gene McCaffrey says he believes the company's future lies with electronic commerce, moving its cable-based home shopping network to the web. Stop right there. Again, I talk about this guy getting it. This was August 1999. ValueVision CEO Gene McCaffrey says he believes the company's future lies with electronic commerce moving its cable-based home shopping network to the web. Okay, this is 23 years later. Why hasn't this happened completely? It should have. It absolutely should have. They got rid of their catalog assets shortly after that. So they were getting out of that because they recognized the internet, technology like this, is where it's at. Let me fast forward to 2000 here. NBC Internet Incorporated, which owns Snap, announced late Monday that it will phase out its Snap brand and others and reorganize them all under the NBCI portal. What does that mean? It means, hello, ShopNBC. That ValueVision would be rechristened not as Snap TV, but as ShopNBC. And that's the name most people alive today will remember the network operating under. And by this point, they're up to 40 million homes. So this was the big announcement, and this was the big chance. If ShopHQ today had followed some of these initial steps set up by ShopNBC, stuck with internet, stuck with some of these things, it might be the dominant player today. Different people come in, have different ideas, say, well, this is the way QVC did it, so this is the way it needs to be done, and kind of killed a lot of it. I'm going to play some audio. This gives me chills to listen to. This is audio from 2002. It's myself and a gentleman by the name of Steve Siddall. We're hosting something called the .com show. And it was a show specifically designed to sell product, yes, but also to introduce people to the idea of shopping online and new technology. Listen to the words coming out of our mouths, because if this isn't predicting where the industry was going to go back in 2002, I don't know what is. This is Steve Siddall. I think he might be the first voice you hear, and then myself as we get started with the .com show.
It's nice to be here. It's a great opportunity for the interactive side to share what it is that we do with the TV audience. And I mean, I realize that there's a lot of crossover, but there's a lot of interesting things about our website that a lot of people don't know, and we can make their shopping experience pretty easy, pretty fun, and you're going to get the same great buys that you do on television, and maybe even a few that you won't get on TV.
And later on, we're going to be showing you how you can almost take our website with you.
Oh, you absolutely can. If you have a Palm, or not necessarily, I use Palm because that's the brand that I'm holding here, but if you have any PDA, and you know, millions of you do, if you do, chances are we can send you every day, every time you reconnect, we'll send you the deal of the day, we'll let you check your order history, we'll let you check your order status, we'll tell you when your favorite shows are on your Palm, and if you're traveling, you can plug in a zip code and find out where ShopNBC is on in the market that you're in.
And we're going to be making the show in... Okay, think about that. In 2002, and by the way, PDA, for those that don't, today that means, you know, public display of affection. Back then it was personal. What the hell was PDA? Personal device. I honestly, I can't remember. You know what? That's a good question. This is why I don't pause the show to look this up. PDA definition. I guarantee it's going to say public displays of affection. Oh, no, it does mention that a small handheld device equipped with a microprocessor that is used for storing and organizing personal information such as addresses and schedules. They were huge before the iPhone came out and took it over. But already back then, this network, this was ShopNBC at the time, was talking about using PDAs to shop and to get online. Why did that fall apart? Why did that idea stall? Why did any of these great internet-based and technology-based ideas fizzle? A new leader came in. So Gene McCaffrey was out, and a new leader came in, and basically all of this was shut down. All of it. So all these great ideas, all these possibilities, they went away. And so that kind of in a nutshell, because it's now into ShopNBC, and, you know, the history books have been written on that as well. But the possibilities of this network from this foundation, where they were talking about getting online, streaming, shopping online, and then getting to the point where it's, hey, you can do this in the palm of your hand before any other shopping network, and dare I even say any online retailer, was even talking about that. It hurts me as someone who was back there at that time looking at this and now thinking, what happened to it? Again, different teams come in, different people have new ideas, and so things change from there. But that's the ValueVision story. Maybe someday we'll do a ShopNBC story. I don't think it's quite as interesting just because after that it kind of became a traditional TV shopping network where you shopped and we had a website and yeah, we're QVC or we're HSN, but we're not as good. So that's that. Well, I would love to promise that on the next show we're going to have iMedia results. But who knows? I do promise this. If we don't have iMedia results, I have an update on Kevin Trudeau that you will find interesting. And so make sure you go back and listen to the Kevin Trudeau. He's part of the infomercial show that I did some time ago. So go and check that out. What else is there to say? I guess that pretty much wraps it up. That's the history of ValueVision. So listen, check me out on social media. By the way, a lot of video clips from ValueVision and ShopNBC days are on my... You know what? We're not done yet. We're not done. Hey, we're not done. Because I forgot about something. Because a lot of video clips of the ShopNBC and ValueVision days are on my YouTube channel, Shawn Wilsey. And I do want to mention this because the feedback that I've had to these past, really 3 shows, the 2 about QVC and HSN, and then the most recent one about ShopHQ, has given me probably more response from the listeners than anything else that I have done on this show. And I want to thank you for that. It has been very interesting to read the comments from people, and you can read them yourself on my YouTube channel, because there's some, and again, I'm not getting political, there's a lot of people saying QVC's gone woke, and they don't like that. Many people are just very upset that, they've let these veteran hosts go, saying, hey, you're alienating the existing customers. One person was kind of, just, hey, you know what, it's the future, get over it. And so, we can all appreciate maybe that, I don't want to say down to earth, but that is kind of a down to earth comment. But also, I've been hearing from, and I will never disclose names, so if you ever email me or anything, it all stays private. I've heard from former hosts. I have heard from vendors. I have heard from people in production who have reached out to me privately about their experiences and their stories, and I'm not going to explain them all. They'd be hearsay anyways. But it's very interesting and very eye-opening knowing that this show is resonating with so many people who have, in some cases, given their life to the industry and feeling like it's not the same, and it's what they knew and grew up with has gone. The incident I mentioned on the last show with the duct tape on the women's chest and otherwise topless. I've heard from people that were involved in that day's show, and there's a lot of finger pointing apparently as to who was to blame for that. You know what? Step up. I'm sorry. I abhor finger pointing in any corporate environment. I've always been the first that if I've been at fault, I said, you know what? That was on me. Sorry. Because I don't want others to take the blame. So stop with the finger pointing. If someone's to blame for that, be a man or a woman and step up and say, you know what? I screwed up. We shouldn't have done that. And so it disgusted me to hear that there's a bunch of finger pointing going on with that. And again, I'm not going to name names or individuals, but it's that should not be happening in any role, in any profession. But thank you for sharing the show and letting people know about it. I understand there's a message board out there that has been promoting this, so thank you to all of you that are part of that message board that have mentioned this. It's an effort of love on my part, because I do love the industry and I want to keep people aware of what's going on. And, not every show is going to be this serious. We're going to get lighthearted again. But anyway, enough of that. Now, where's my music? There's my music. And listen, I want you to check me out on social media. I mentioned the YouTube channel, Shawn Wilsey, Twitter, Shawn Wilsey, Instagram, S. Wilsey, Facebook. Bye-bye. No more Facebook. And spread the word about the show. I'd love your reviews as well. That's always appreciated. So thank you for that. Hopefully next week, or next time, a profit report, or lack thereof maybe, who knows, from iMedia. We'll find out. This has been a King Bobby production.
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.